Kevin, do you have any thoughts on the ejection and how the referees handled it and whether players should be able to?
Nope, no thoughts on that. That's on them. They control the game, and they like I said, they control the game, and it's on them to make those type of calls. So it don't matter really if we agree with it or not.
Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Kevin, what are the kind of treetops of what went wrong tonight?
They just played with more urgency to start the game, and they hit us in the mouth early, and then we was fighting uphill all game. And then they got hot. You know, you come in the game, guys who haven't played as much get more opportunities and playing free. And they came out and hit us in the mouth. So they're the champs. You got to respect it.
Alex Schiffer with The Athletic.
Kevin, I think you guys were only down by 4 or so when the ejections happened. Did you think that was a momentum change at all, or you guys were struggling even before that in some areas?
I mean, we were down. We were in the game then, but I'm not going to blame it on the ejection. Why the momentum switched? They got it going, so we should have got it going.
Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Kevin, 8 turnovers for you tonight. Just wondering if that was a byproduct of anything the Lakers defense was doing, or whether that's a byproduct of you just trying to figure out your way out there with, like you said, all those new players and getting used to everybody.
Yeah, that's all on me. I mean, they were trapping me and keeping 2 on the ball a lot, but all that stuff is still on me. I can't put that on nobody else. I'll be better.
Last question, Steve Lichtenstein with WFAN.
Hi, Kevin. Their success from the three-point line, from your vantage, did you see it as more of your team's breakdowns, or you just chalk it up to them getting hot?
There's a couple breakdowns, but they got hot. I mean, Big McLemore hit 4 over a hand in that fourth. Pope was hitting shots, from the Tracy. So, from the 3. So, it was a little bit of both.
Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate it.
Yep.
The Nets' big 3, they have actually only spent 186 minutes together on the court, and they've only played 7 games together this season, going 5-2 in those contests. That's not a lot of games, especially when comparing to other recent big 3s to win the title in their first season together. That includes Durant, Curry, and Klay Thompson in the 2016-17 season, when they played 57 games with one another in the regular season. So obviously not being able to play a ton of minutes together, 186 minutes only amounts to about 4 games total that they've been on a court together, but they're still managing to be 1 game ahead of the 76ers in the East for that top seed. Are there any concerns that kind of stand out for you? If we just take it to the court, we know that the big 3 is going to exist at some point in time. What stands out to you?
I actually have a few concerns, and when you put together a super team like the Nets are doing, it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that they're going to actually win the Eastern Conference. I actually have a few things that I'm concerned about. One, injuries, in particular hamstrings. You never know when that can happen again. The second thing is when their big 3 has been playing, it seems like they're taking turns. They're less synchronized. So therefore, you got to get more reps in order to get used to one another. They also have a first-year coach. And then they just added Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. These guys haven't played together. And lastly, James Harden sacrifices a lot when all 3 of them are playing. He only taking 11 shots per game, Woj. This is a guy that's led the league in scoring. Should he be the 3rd option or the 2nd option? I mean, they still got to get that sorted out.
Yeah, Jalen, I think he's going to be the 2nd option, and I think for the Nets, when they get into the playoffs, and you saw this Miami's first year together, Boston's first year of the big 3. They went to 7 games with Atlanta in that first round series. Those teams played a lot together in the regular season. But if Kyrie Irving is going to be that 3rd option, someone is always 3rd. It is never a trio. It is never co-star. Someone's going to be 3rd in this. How do they handle that when they get into late game situations? Who's taking that big shot when there's blame to be had? There's a lot of stuff you're going to go through in the playoffs. And I think for this Nets team, as Jalen said, working through that's going to be a real challenge. What James Harden has done for this team, he has elevated the role players. They have loved playing with James Harden, the way he has shared the ball. Joe Harris especially, he has been a godsend for this locker room, not just because of the injuries they've had, but this team is really his team now in terms of how he choreographs it with the ball, sharing it on and what he's meant to them in the locker room.
Mm-hmm. We know that Joe Harris can shoot it, and obviously right now the Nets, they're second in the NBA in three-point field goal efficiency. But was there some news to be reported also throughout the league? So what is the latest?
Yeah, Alex Rodriguez and billionaire Mark Lohr, they're finalizing a deal to purchase the Minnesota Timberwolves from Glenn Taylor. Taylor will continue to control the team for another 2 years, 2023. Lohr and A-Rod will take control of the Timberwolves. I'm told the purchase price is around $1.5 billion.
That's news.
I could have contributed a little bit. Holla at your boy A-Rod.
Yeah, maybe next time. The T-Wolves right now, they are last in the league. They have a new head coach and obviously looking to improve. The Nets have no shortage of talent. They are the first team in NBA history to have 6 players with multiple All-NBA selections in total. Durant, Harden, Irvin, Griffin, Aldridge, and Jordan have combined to make the All-NBA team 31 times, and obviously the 3 players of consequence that have come out of the buyout market are Aldridge, Griffin, and Drummond, all playing here in tonight's game. Jay Rose, we know what the buyout usually ends in. It's an opportunity for players to get out of contract. It's an uncoupling, it's amicable, it's nice, it's an opportunity for a veteran like Blake Griffin to go to a contender. But you see it as something else. What would you call the buyout market? How would you describe it?
It's overall terrible for the league, and I guarantee you Adam Silver is going to do something to change it. And of course, I love player flexibility, and Blake Griffin was a good Piston. He was an all-star player for us. But however, he didn't dunk a basketball in a year. Since he's been with the Nets, he got 5 dunks in 6 games. He made his bones by dunking the basketball, which led Pistons fans like myself to believe he was dogging it so he could get traded. And all buyouts, Maria, aren't created equal.
No.
He had another year left on his deal. This wasn't the final year of his deal. And so when I see teams, because teams are guilty as well, it's happening right now with Al Horford with the Thunder. It happened with the Cavs and Andre Drummond. Teams are trying to protect their player and assets, saying we're not going to play you so we can move you or, protect our asset. The league did something to help change that. 7 through 10 is now a play-in. So now all of those teams lower in the conference have to compete. The league is going to do something eventually for players that are in these situations.
Now, I disagree with you on one thing, Jalen. I don't think Blake Griffin dogged it in Detroit. I think he played. His last 2 games, he played a back-to-back before he was done, played 34 minutes a game. I think there's a lot more room on the court in Brooklyn for him to have open alleys to the basket. But listen, I think there's an issue with small market GMs in this league who think that ultimately when players and the way that they can pressure teams and use their agents to pressure teams to get out of contract, but also that they don't in small markets have the opportunity to get access to sign these players because they want to go to a New York or Brooklyn or Los Angeles. Now, history will show you that players tend to go toward contenders.
Yep.
There were years where Oklahoma City got buyouts. Ennis Cantor goes to Portland in a buyout. That happens, but I think the feeling with the league and what they'll talk to the union about, maybe the next collective bargaining agreement, is there is a sense this isn't how we want the salary cap to work. A player who's making $25 or $30 million a year getting bought out, and all of a sudden he becomes a minimum player and a team can sign him who doesn't have the cap space or the ability to sign a player. And so that's going to continue to be a conversation. But I think, for the NBA, you're not going to see this really impact until the next CBA talks, which are really 2 + 3 years away.
But it affects the balance of power. Because when you have guys that are LaMarcus Aldridge or Blake Griffin, who are the first or second best player on the team, and then you go join the Nets and you're the 5th and 6th best player on the team, and then you put a stat up there that they got 6 all-star players, that affects the balance of power in the league.
But former all-star players, those are not current all-star players too.
Do you think you're a little sensitive because he came from Detroit?
I am.
Okay, just a little bit. You're a little emotional.
I'm in my feelings.
Okay, that's okay. That's all. We're all family here, and we totally understand it, okay?